Welcome to our deep dive into the concept of the ecological niche, a foundational idea in ecology that has shaped how we understand species, their environments, and the complex web of life. In this video, we'll trace the history of the niche concept, explore its shifting definitions, and examine the debates that have surrounded it. From its Darwinian roots to modern controversies between niche theory and neutral theory, the ecological niche has been both a guiding light and a source of confusion for ecologists. Let's begin by setting the stage for why this concept matters and how it has influenced ecological thought. Long before the term niche was coined, the idea that every species has a place or role in nature was present in myths, philosophy, and early natural history. Ancient Greek thinkers like Aristotle described the habits, diets, and habitats of organisms, recognizing their interconnectedness. In the 18th century, Linnaeus spoke of the economy of nature, where all beings fit harmoniously together. These early notions set the groundwork for later scientific concepts, emphasizing the relationship between organisms and their environment, a relationship that would eventually be formalized as the ecological niche. Charles Darwin added a crucial layer to the idea of ecological roles by introducing natural selection. He described each organism as having a line of life, adapted to its place in the economy of nature. For Darwin, the struggle for survival meant that species were shaped by their environments, and their roles were not static but evolved over time. This evolutionary perspective would become central to later definitions of the niche, linking the concept to adaptation and competition. The early 20th century, Joseph Grinnell was among the first to use the word niche to describe the place a species occupies in its environment. For Grinnell, the niche included everything that conditioned a species' existence: abiotic factors like temperature and humidity, and biotic factors like food and predators. He developed an ecological hierarchy, placing the niche as the ultimate unit of association between species. Grinnell's work emphasized that no two species in the same fauna could have exactly the same niche relationships, foreshadowing the competitive exclusion principle. Charles Elton, another pioneer, focused on the functional aspects of niches, especially trophic relationships, who eats whom. He defined a niche as an organism's place in its community, particularly its food and enemies. Elton's approach highlighted ecological equivalence, different species occupying similar roles in different regions. While later textbooks distinguished Grinnell's habitat niche from Elton's functional niche, their concepts were remarkably similar, both emphasizing the role of species within ecological communities. Competitive exclusion principle, sometimes called Gauss's principle, states that two species competing for the same niche cannot coexist indefinitely. One will eventually outcompete the other. This idea, rooted in Darwin and formalized by Gauss and later Hutchinson, became a cornerstone of ecological theory. It reinforced the importance of niche differentiation as a mechanism for species coexistence and shaped the direction of ecological research for decades. 1957, George Hutchinson revolutionized the niche concept by defining it as a multidimensional space of environmental variables, both biotic and abiotic, where a species can survive indefinitely. He introduced the terms fundamental niche, the full range of conditions a species could theoretically occupy, and realized niche, the subset actually occupied, limited by competition. This formalization allowed for quantification and predictive modeling, making the niche concept more operational in ecological research. Despite its elegance, Hutchinson's niche concept faced operational difficulties. Measuring the exact boundaries of a species, fundamental and realized niches in nature prove challenging, as environmental variables are complex and often interact in unpredictable ways. Additionally, the binary approach, where a species either survives or doesn't, oversimplified the nuanced realities of ecological performance. These challenges prompted further refinements and debates about how best to define and use the niche concept in practice. 1960s and 1970s saw the rise of niche theory, particularly through the work of MacArthur, Levins, and others. They shifted the focus to resource utilization distributions, representing niches as histograms of resource use. This approach made the concept more measurable and led to a family of models explaining community assembly, species coexistence, and limiting similarity. Niche theory became central to environmental issues, though some ecologists criticized it as confusing or even tautological. Key outcome of niche theory was the concept of limiting similarity, the idea that there's a minimum difference required between species niches for stable coexistence. Empirical studies sought to test predictions about niche spacing, such as Hutchinson's 4:3 size ratio, but results were mixed. The theory also inspired research into the causes and consequences of biodiversity, driving ecologists to explore how niche differences shape the richness and structure of community. By the 1980s, enthusiasm for competition-centered niche theory waned. Critics pointed out that many studies lacked proper null models, casting doubt on their conclusions. The focus shifted toward more rigorous statistical and experimental methods, and ecologists became skeptical about the explanatory power of niche theory. Empirical work decreased, and attention turned to local interactions and basic hypotheses about species coexistence, rather than large-scale patterns. The 1990s and early 2000s, Matthew Leibold and Jonathan Chase revitalized the niche concept. They proposed a synthesis that distinguished between an organism's responses to environmental factors and its impacts on those factors. Their framework aimed to free niche theory from its narrow focus on competition, making it more inclusive of other ecological interactions and multi-scale processes. This renovation positioned the niche as a tool for understanding complex ecological patterns in a changing world. Further extension of the niche concept emerged with niche construction theory in evolutionary biology. This approach emphasizes that organisms actively modify their environments. Think of beavers building dams or earthworms altering soil structure. Such modifications can change the selection pressures organisms face, making niche construction a process that interacts with and sometimes rivals natural selection. This perspective highlights the dynamic, reciprocal relationship between organisms and their environments. Niche concept has also been adopted in cell biology, particularly in the study of stem cells. Here, the stem cell niche refers to the specific microenvironment that maintains stem cell properties and regulates their numbers. This idea has become important in understanding tissue regeneration, cancer, and potential therapies. While inspired by ecological thinking, the stem cell niche focuses on fate decisions rather than fitness, illustrating how the niche concept has been adapted across disciplines. From Grinnell onward, the niche has been used to explain biodiversity. Species coexist because each occupies a unique niche. Modern coexistence theories distinguish between mechanisms that equalize fitness differences and those that stabilize coexistence through negative feedbacks. Niche partitioning, where species use different resources or habitats, creates stabilizing feedbacks, reducing competition and promoting diversity. These ideas remain central to understanding how diverse communities persist over time. Coexistence mechanisms can be equalizing, reducing average fitness differences between species, or stabilizing, involving negative feedbacks that prevent any one species from dominating. Niche partitioning is a key stabilizing mechanism, as it ensures that each species impacts the resources or enemies that limit it most. The more distinct the niches, the more stable the coexistence. However, other factors like predation, mutualism, and environmental variability also play roles in maintaining diversity. Competition not only increases when niches overlap, but also drives species to reduce overlap over time. This negative feedback means that competition itself can lead to greater niche differentiation, both ecologically and evolutionarily. However, disentangling the effects of competition from other mechanisms remains a challenge, and the importance of competition in shaping niches is still debated among ecologists. The late 20th century, Stephen Hubble introduced the neutral theory of biodiversity, challenging the centrality of the niche concept. Neutral theory assumes that all species are functionally equivalent, there are no niche differences, and that community dynamics are driven by random processes like birth, death, and dispersal. This radical approach questioned whether niche differentiation is necessary to explain patterns of diversity, especially in highly diverse ecosystems like tropical forests. Neutral theory built on earlier ideas from population genetics and biogeography. Theories of island biogeography and neutral evolution in genetics had already explored the consequences of random processes and equivalence among types. Hubble extended these ideas to ecological communities, arguing that limited dispersal and stochastic events could explain observed patterns of species abundance and distribution, without invoking niche differences. Neutral models describe communities where all individuals, regardless of species, have the same chances of survival and reproduction. Diversity arises from a balance between random extinction and the appearance of new types through speciation or migration. While competition exists, it is symmetric. No species has an inherent advantage. This framework contrasts sharply with niche theory, which relies on differences between species to explain coexistence. Strength of neutral theory is its incorporation of spatial processes. Local communities exchange individuals with a larger regional pool, and dispersal limitation can create patterns of species aggregation and turnover. These spatially explicit models help explain why similar communities can have different compositions and why rare species persist. However, interpreting the parameters of these models in real ecosystems remains a challenge. Neutral theory makes strong assumptions, complete niche overlap and fitness equivalence that are rarely met in nature. Yet it often fits observed patterns of species abundance surprisingly well. This raises questions about the necessity of niche-based explanations for certain ecological patterns. However, when it comes to explaining differences in species responses to environmental change, overyielding in mixed communities, or the stability of community composition, niche theory still provides essential insights. One of the main successes of neutral theory is its ability to predict species abundance distributions, SADs, the patterns of common and rare species in a community. Both neutral and niche models can generate similar SADs, making it difficult to distinguish between them based on abundance data alone. This has led to debates about the explanatory power of each theory and the need for additional data or approaches to resolve their differences. Neutral theory also explains spatial patterns of species distribution, such as the clustering of individuals of the same species. Traditionally, such patterns were attributed to local adaptation and niche differences. Neutral models, however, show that limited dispersal alone can create similar patterns, complicating efforts to infer ecological processes from spatial data. High-resolution studies are needed to tease apart the roles of adaptation and dispersal. While neutral theory predicts that community composition drifts over time due to random processes, niche theory expects stability and resilience, especially after disturbances. Observations of stable, resilient communities and resistance to invasion support the importance of niche differences. However, in some cases, neutral drift may dominate, especially in highly diverse or disturbed systems. In its simplicity and parsimony, neutral theory is often used as a null hypothesis in ecology. If observed patterns can be explained by neutral processes, there may be no need to invoke niche differences. However, when data deviate from neutral predictions, such as in cases of overyielding or strong environmental responses, niche-based explanations become necessary. This approach encourages rigorous testing and model selection in ecological research. Recent critiques highlight that both niche and neutral models often rely on low-dimensional representations of complex ecological systems. Real communities may be structured by many more factors, resources, interactions, and environmental gradients, than traditional models capture. High-dimensional approaches such as Bayesian hierarchical models are beginning to reveal hidden niche differences even among seemingly equivalent species. Over more than a century, the meaning of niche has shifted from a fixed place in the ecosystem to a multidimensional relationship between organisms and their environments. Whether defined as a habitat, a role, a set of environmental conditions, or a dynamic process, the niche remains central to understanding how species interact and persist. Its multiple meanings reflect the evolving challenges and ambitions of ecological science. At its core, the niche is a model of the relationship between an organism and its environment. In some frameworks, this relationship is fixed. In others, it can evolve or be constructed by the organism itself. The explanatory status of the niche can shift between being the cause of patterns explanans and the pattern to be explained explanandum, leading to ongoing debates about its proper use in ecology and beyond. Niche theory and neutral theory offer contrasting explanations for biodiversity. Niche theory explains coexistence through differences in resource use and interactions, while neutral theory attributes diversity to random processes and species equivalence. The apparent paradox is resolved by recognizing that each theory targets different aspects of community dynamics, stability for niche theory, and abundance patterns for neutral theory. While neutral theory has expanded the toolkit for explaining diversity patterns, it has limitations. Its assumption of fitness equivalence is rarely met, and it cannot predict which species will be common or rare. However, its emphasis on dispersal, stochasticity, and sampling effects has influenced the development of more mechanistic, spatially explicit models that integrate both neutral and niche processes. Modern ecology increasingly recognizes that both niche and neutral processes operate in nature. Some models incorporate elements of both, acknowledging that species may be similar in some respects but differ in others. This integrative approach aims to capture the complexity of real ecosystems, where randomness and deterministic forces interact to shape community structure and dynamics. Niche concept has found applications beyond traditional ecology, influencing fields like evolutionary biology, medicine, and even oncology. Whether describing the microenvironment of stem cells or the dynamics of cancer metastasis, the idea of a niche as a specialized environment continues to inspire new research and therapeutic strategies. Despite decades of research, controversies persist about the explanatory power and proper use of the niche concept. Debates continue over the relative importance of deterministic versus stochastic processes, the dimensionality of ecological models, and the best ways to test competing hypotheses. These discussions reflect the dynamic, evolving nature of ecological science. Ecological models, whether niche-based, neutral, or integrative, are tools for understanding the complexity of nature. Each model makes simplifying assumptions, and their usefulness depends on the questions being asked and the data available. Ongoing advances in data collection, statistical methods, and computational power are enabling more nuanced and realistic models of ecological communities. Looking ahead, the study of ecological niches is poised to benefit from new technologies and interdisciplinary approaches. High-throughput data, remote sensing, and advanced modeling are opening new frontiers in understanding how species interact with their environments. As global challenges like habitat loss and climate change intensify, the niche concept will remain vital for predicting and managing biodiversity. Conservation biologists use the niche concept to identify critical habitats, predict species, responses to environmental change, and design effective management strategies. Understanding the realized and fundamental niches of endangered species can inform efforts to protect and restore populations, making the niche a practical as well as theoretical tool. As climate change alters environmental conditions worldwide, understanding species niches becomes even more important. Shifts in temperature, precipitation, and resource availability can push species beyond their realized or even fundamental niches, leading to range shifts, population declines, or extinctions. Ecologists are using niche models to forecast these changes and inform policy. Niche evolution, the process by which species niches change over time, remains a vibrant area of research. Studies of adaptive radiation, character displacement, and coevolution illustrate how niches can shift in response to environmental pressures and interactions with other species. This dynamic view of the niche underscores its centrality to evolutionary ecology. Examples of niche construction abound in nature. Beavers create wetlands, earthworms enrich soils, and corals build reefs, each altering their environment in ways that affect themselves and other species. Recognizing these processes has practical implications for ecosystem management, restoration, and understanding the resilience of natural systems. Microbial ecologists have embraced the niche concept to explain the astonishing diversity of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms. Microbes occupy a vast array of ecological roles, often defined by chemical gradients, resource availability, and interactions with hosts. Understanding microbial niches is crucial for fields ranging from agriculture to human health. Niche concept helps explain the success or failure of invasive species. When introduced to new environments, invaders may find empty niches or outcompete native species for resources. Predicting invasions and managing their impacts requires understanding both the niches of invaders and the structure of recipient communities. Ecosystem services, the benefits humans derive from nature, are closely linked to the diversity of niches in a community. Pollination, nutrient cycling, pest control, and other services depend on the presence of species with complementary roles. Protecting and enhancing these services requires maintaining niche diversity at multiple scales. The ongoing dialogue between niche and neutral theories continues to shape ecological research. As new data and methods become available, ecologists are better equipped to test hypotheses, refine models, and integrate insights from both perspectives. The niche concept, with its rich history and adaptability, remains a cornerstone of ecological thinking. Summary: the ecological niche is a concept with a complex and evolving history. From its origins in natural history and Darwinian thought to its central role in modern ecology and beyond, the niche has helped scientists make sense of the diversity and dynamics of life. Whether as a place, a role, a set of conditions, or a dynamic process, the niche remains an indispensable tool for understanding and managing the living world. As we face unprecedented environmental challenges, the insights provided by niche theory and its ongoing debates will be more important than ever.